Our relationship with others is a reflection of our relationship with God. We can't love others. Jesus said it himself. If you can't forgive, I can't forgive you.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, that in itself is right there.
Right, actually. But
yeah. I mean, it tells you, hey, I've got to learn to forgive.
Yeah.
And I've got to start in my family.
Right.
Another part of
and
dealing...
you would have to go to the point of saying 70 times.
Yeah.
And in other words, there's no limit to how many times you forgive.
Right. You have to forgive
continually
and every time.
Yeah.
And he even says there's nothing wrong with anger.
You can sin with it.
Right. It's what you do with that anger.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is not a one-time thing either. When somebody's done something to you and you forgive them, you don't necessarily forgive and move on. You may be forgiving them every single day of the rest of your life.
Right.
And have to continue for that exact same thing.
True.
It's not I wish it were I forgive you and then you can move on in life.
Forgive and forget.
Yeah,
there's literal. But, we're human and we can't do that.
You forgive, you just don't forget sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hard thing, is that you forgive them, you don't forget it, and the next time it happens, it's harder to really forgive them, even though you say you do, because you haven't forgotten the last time.
Right. And
now it's happened again. It refreshes you and reminds you that, or lets you, informs you, that it's going to happen one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Or more than one more time. And you're getting prepared to say, well, it's all right, I forgive you, and you really don't.
And it's not an easy thing to
No, it's not. And relationships are so important.
Yeah. I mean, there's even, now, 17 years later, 18 years later, I wake up in the morning and I have to, when things go on with the boys and Sean, I have to tell myself, stop. You can't revisit this. You've got to move,
Yeah, it's hard.
All the more reason God said to pray always.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Pray continually, because there are things we face every day. We get sideswiped and blindsided and don't see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it does, and maybe we don't react as we should and know we should, there's that recovery.
Yeah. The last few weeks, Darlene's faced the Tasmanian devil a whole lot, and me. And if we hadn't had a relationship to begin with, there would have been more war at home than the scrimmages that we've gone through. I mean, one time she said I got up out of bed and looked like I was half dead, from this. But, I just...
Scared me.
Not only have I not felt good, I've not been good.
Yeah, and that's the hardest time to be good, is when you don't feel good. But the bottom line, Paul is trying to tell Timothy, is that families care for families take care of their own.
Exactly.
He preceded information about elders and both men and women and the younger people to a section on widows. And because, back then, taking care of a widow was a serious job.
Sure it was.
Widows, they were in a difficult position. They lost everything. If they didn't have any children,
yeah,
the property reverted to the brother of the husband.
Right. And so did the widow. Too.
Right. Or at least it was supposed to go that way.
Right.
If they had children, it went to the eldest son.
Yeah.
So, and she lost the income from that. Which, there were two options for her. She either became a beggar, started her own business, which, was sacrilege back then,
Yeah.
or her family took care of her.
Right.
And so Paul kind of established a way of deciphering real widow from not so real widow. I don't want to say a false widow, but
Right.
And a real widow had no surviving children or grandchildren. In other words, no family to take care of her. And then would devote herself to God and to prayer. I guess in many ways you could say this was the early spawnings of the nunnery. In some respects, she would devote herself to God and live her life for God and be taken care of by the church.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul made it very clear that a family who didn't take care of their widows was no better than an infidel. In fact, was worse than an infidel. Now, why would he make such a strong denouncement of those people? I think it's because the gospel is a gospel of love. That's what Jesus' message was love. God's love for His children, His children's love for God, and His children's love for each other. And if we're unable to demonstrate that love within our own family, our witness becomes incredibly tainted. And people will look at us and like, you left your mother out on the street. Or she's in a nursing home, 2 blocks away and you never go visit her. And back to the people back in the early days of the church, and prior to that, taking care of the widows or the widower who was unable to provide for himself was a means of repaying for the years of care and service that they had given to them as children, and to the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. I've always said that life is a circle. You're born, you're incapable of defending yourself and taking care of yourself, so your family raises you. And you grow, and then you become an individual, and you can care for yourself, and you start your own family. And as you age, you become unable to care for yourself again. And the family is, the new family is then should be taking care of you. And I can, Tabitha and I have had the discussion many times that, barring a physical inability of our own, we aren't going to want to see our parents in a nursing home. We'll do what we need to do to take care of them. Sometimes that means a change in lifestyle. My mom and dad just went through it with my grandma and my grandfather. One was at home, the other one was 400 miles away in Minnesota. But they did it. Every month my mom and dad went up to Minnesota to take care of my grandfather. So we have to start at home.
Right.
With showing love and compassion and respect and dignity and integrity with our own families, our parents and grandparents, our spouses, and our children, so that gets passed on from generation to generation.